Welcome to the deep dive. So if you've been paying any attention to the discourse around tech lately, the atmosphere is just thick with this thing we're calling automation anxiety.
Oh, absolutely. That deep-seated worry.
Yeah, the feeling that the cognitive revolution isn't just going to change your job, but that it might just, well, delete it. So today we're taking that whole stack of sources you sent us about the future of work and trying to give you a real roadmap for this shift.
And that anxiety is completely understandable. I mean, it comes from this very simple but false dichotomy.
That AI will either save us or destroy us.
Exactly. It's either utopia or the end of the labor market. And our mission today is really to move past that fear and look at the reality both historically and, practically. When you really examine technological progress, it very rarely deletes work. It redefines it fundamentally.
And that redefinition, that's the core theme of this whole deep dive, isn't it? Our sources kept coming back to this idea that professional value itself is shifting. We're moving, and I love this phrase, from muscle to mind and from routine to relationship.
Right. If your job isn't about high-volume routine output anymore, your value has to come from somewhere else.
And before we get into the data, we should ground this in a bit of history because this dread, it's not new.
Not at all. We saw the same kind of economic unease during the Luddite riots. And every single wave of innovation since, from the steam engine to the internet, has been met with that same fear of obsolescence.
So we've been here before.
We have. The real challenge is understanding what makes this moment a little bit different.
Okay, so let's unpack that. History gives us this familiar rhythm, right? A three-part beat for these tech waves. First comes displacement, then there's adjustment, and finally renewal. The Industrial Revolution is the classic example. It absolutely displaced skilled artisans. But that same tech created whole new professions: engineers, factory managers, accountants.
The entire modern white-collar workforce, really.
And we saw it again with the digital revolution more recently. It just wiped out entire fields of clerical work.
Right, think manual data entry, filing, switchboard operators.
But that had to happen for the creative economies and the whole digital tech sector to even exist. So the rhythm is familiar, but you said this moment is different.
It is. The difference is the tempo.
The pace.
The pace. The speed of the cognitive revolution is, frankly, outpacing our ability to adapt. And you can see this so clearly in the data projections. They're whiplash-inducing.
Whiplash-inducing? How so?
Okay, just look at the World Economic Forum. In 2020, they projected that AI would lead to a net gain of 12 million jobs globally.
A net gain.
Yes, that was the consensus just a few years ago.
And then generative AI happened.
Exactly. The sudden explosion of large language models, the tools that write copy, analyze documents, generate code, it drove this massive revision. By 2023, the WEF had swung from optimism to serious caution.
Okay, so what was the new number?
The revised outlook was a potential net loss of 14 million jobs.
Wow. Wait, so that's a 26 million job swing in just 3 years.
It's staggering.
So what was it specifically? Was it just that ChatGPT and these tools were way more competent than anyone expected?
That's the key. Previous automation was predictable, it was expensive, capital-intensive, and it mostly targeted blue-collar or very low-skill clerical work. But generative AI showed this unforeseen ability to do the procedural tasks of the highly educated middle class.
We're talking junior lawyers, entry-level programmers, consultants.
Right, and that accelerated impact on white-collar work is what forced that huge, rapid revision.
Yeah.
So, the issue isn't the change itself. The danger is when that change outpaces our ability to adapt.
So the effect isn't just a straight line to replacement. The sources lay this out as more of a complex tapestry with 3 different threads: displacement, augmentation, and creation. Let's start with the one that causes the most fear: displacement.
Right. And displacement is happening, but is very strategic.
Yeah.
AI is just ruthlessly efficient at automating tasks that are rule-based, repetitive, or procedural.
See, it's not just about factory lines anymore. It's any role, blue or white collar, that's just about moving data or applying a fixed set of rules.
That's it.
And some studies are suggesting that up to 50% of entry-level positions could be eliminated in the next 5 years. Can you give us some concrete examples? Who is really in the crosshairs here?
Sure. Think about the way we used to train people. Junior paralegals spending their first year summarizing documents.
Okay.
Or entry-level coders whose main job was just debugging or writing boilerplate code. First-pass marketing copywriters, drafting 50 versions of the same email. Invoice reconciliation specialists. These are all things that used to take human time and training.
And are now done by algorithms in an instant.
Instantly.
And this is what leads to what economists call job polarization, right?
That's the exact phenomenon. It creates this risk of a severe hourglass shape in the labor market.
An hourglass shape.
Yeah. At the top, you have your high-skill, high-creativity roles, the AI engineers, the strategists. At the bottom, you have necessary human touch service jobs, caretakers, hospitality. But that whole middle section, the engine of upward mobility, it's getting thinned out because that's where all the procedural white-collar work used to be.
But hold on, if augmentation is happening, which is our next thread, shouldn't that lift the middle, not haul it out? I mean, is that polarization model maybe a bit too pessimistic?
That's an excellent question. The model assumes substitution is the main driver. But you're right, the second thread, augmentation, is actually far more common. This fallacy of the pink slip is the idea that a worker gets replaced. The reality most of the time is that the worker gets a mighty co-pilot.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Tell us more about that co-pilot role. I know there's some really compelling data on productivity.
There is. Let's look at that crucial MIT and Stanford study. They looked at customer support agents using AI assistants.
So the AI isn't doing the whole job?
No, not at all. It's providing real-time suggestions, summarizing information, suggesting a better tone. The overall productivity of the agents went up by 14%.
Okay, 14% is pretty good.
It is, but here's the really powerful insight. The less experienced workers, they saw an improvement of up to 34%.
34%, wow.
Yeah.
So the AI is acting as like a rapid knowledge transfer. It's giving new hires the wisdom that used to take years to build up.
That's it, exactly. It levels the playing field. The AI provides the first draft, the initial diagnostic, the basic summary, which frees up the human worker to focus on the really high-value stuff.
Like with a doctor using AI for diagnostics.
Perfect example.
Okay.
The AI makes the diagnosis faster, more accurate, but the doctor is now free to handle the complex human parts, delivering bad news, coordinating care, building trust, things that require empathy. Augmentation actually makes human labor more valuable because we're freed up for the truly human work.
And thankfully, the third thread is creation. So despite all the doomsday headlines, we're seeing entirely new jobs being created almost overnight.
This is the renewal part of the rhythm, and we're moving way beyond just needing more AI and machine learning engineers.
Right.
We now need prompt engineers who are essentially poets for generative AI, figuring out how to ask the perfect question to get the perfect answer. We need AI trainers and data annotation specialists who are the people manually improving the data sets to make the AIs less biased and more accurate.
And we're also seeing these roles that are basically policing the technology itself.
Precisely. Roles like AI ethics auditors who make sure these models aren't causing harm.
Yeah.
Or synthetic media designers who are building these hyper-realistic virtual worlds.
These jobs just didn't exist in any real way 5 years ago.
Not at all. And this whole new frontier requires this very specific blend of technical skill and, human judgment. Which brings us right to this emerging archetype, the new-collar worker.
New collar, not blue or white collar.
Exactly. This is someone who blends technical literacy. They can work with AI tools with extreme adaptability. And critically, these roles often value demonstrated skills over, say, a traditional 4-year degree.
It really speaks to how the whole calculus of education is changing. I mean, we used to think of knowledge as this thing you acquired once. You get your degree, you're set.
Right.
But our sources say skills now have a half-life measured in years, not decades.
The game has fundamentally changed. The most valuable asset you can have now isn't the volume of knowledge you possess. It's your learning velocity.
Learning velocity.
The mastery of learning, unlearning, and relearning. The people who thrive are the ones who can just move seamlessly from one tool to the next because stability is. It's just not an option anymore. You have to optimize for motion.
So if the machines are handling all the predictable procedural work,
Mm-hmm.
what's left for us? I mean, how do we monetize the human element in a world that's becoming so automated?
That's where we get to the economics of empathy. In a world where technical output is standardized and automated, humanity becomes the ultimate differentiator. Value shifts completely into these distinctly human domains: empathy, ethics, and what one source called emotional and cognitive elasticity.
Okay, give us a concrete example of that. How does empathy translate into real, measurable economic value in an automated field?
Let's take a financial advisor. An AI tool can generate 10,000 highly accurate personalized investment plans in a minute. The technical output is a commodity.
Got it.
But that advisor's value is now entirely in building trust with the client, explaining risk in a way they can understand, and managing their emotional response when the market gets volatile.
So you're not paying for the recommendation.
You're paying for the human who can explain it, reassure you, and stop you from making a panic-driven mistake. Empathy monetizes the data by building the trust needed to actually act on it.
So what does this all mean for society? I mean, if we accept this is happening, that the labor market is accelerating and segmenting, the sources warn that the biggest danger isn't mass unemployment, it's mass underpreparation.
We're just not ready for how fast the skill requirements are shifting. And this underpreparation doesn't fall evenly, It threatens to make existing social inequalities much, much worse.
How so?
Well, we have to be honest about the distribution of risk. The data is pretty clear. Black workers, for example, are 20% more likely to be in jobs that have a high potential for automation.
Wow. That's a huge risk to economic mobility.
A huge risk. And we see a big gender disparity in high-income countries, too. About 7.8% of women's jobs are at risk, compared to just 2.9% of men's.
So without some kind of proactive policy, automation could just harden the existing wealth gaps?
It absolutely could. Those who can afford continuous retraining will thrive, and those who can't will get left further behind.
This sounds like it requires a fundamental rewrite of the social contract of work. The old industrial age contract was built on stability. You get a job, you stay there, you retire. That's obsolete.
Completely obsolete. The new cognitive age contract has to be built on mobility. We, as in governments, companies, individuals, we have to shift our focus away from job security, which is a relic, and towards skill security.
Skill security.
Ensuring that every worker has the resources and the capacity to pivot between roles and sectors throughout their entire career.
That sounds like a monumental effort. It requires everyone to be moving in the same direction. So let's break down that multi-stakeholder strategy. Let's start with the individuals listening.
For individuals, it's about accepting that you are now your own chief learning officer. You just have to be. You have to cultivate adaptability and really focus on those human-centric skills.
Yeah.
Communication, critical thinking, empathy.
And what about companies? Because this is often where reskilling programs fall apart, right? They invest once and then the tech changes again.
Companies have to stop seeing development as just an expense and start seeing it as a strategic imperative. They need to invest heavily in transition, create clear reskilling pathways, and see their employees not just as assets for today, but as future assets whose skills they need to proactively maintain. But it's hard, it's expensive, and the targets keep moving.
And finally, what's the role for government in all of this?
Government has to step up in a big way. They need to build comprehensive workforce development policies that can scale quickly, create incentives for companies to choose augmentation over simple replacement, and crucially, make huge investments in education infrastructure that supports continuous, lifelong learning for everyone, not just people already in high-skill jobs. Skill mobility has to be affordable and accessible for the entire workforce.
This whole deep dive really comes back to a core point you made right at the start. The future of work isn't humans versus machines.
No, it's humans and machines in concert. Machines will handle everything that can be standardized, predicted, and automated. And that frees up the human mind to navigate everything else. The novel, the empathetic, the ethical challenges of a world that is just moving faster than ever.
So we're not being replaced.
We're being radically elevated. We're being pushed into the highest functions of what it means to be human at work.
So the most valuable skill in this new era, it really is that ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. It's all about learning velocity. And as you take all this in, here's a final provocative thought for you to consider. Which skill that you rely on right now has the shortest half-life? And what specific idea or concept do you need to actively unlearn next to maintain your learning velocity and keep up with the accelerating tempo of the cognitive revolution?